Hello, and welcome to a bonus episode of Game Together. My guest today is Zac Dixon from Ivy Studio, and we're talking about his newest game and their 13th release, Honor's End. Zac is the co-founder of Ivy Studio and a graduate of Cedarville University, so a little local connection for you there. Enjoy the interview. We talk all about the new game and other stuff that's in the pipeline for them. Zac Dixon, welcome to Game Together. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today. Just first and foremost, tell me a little bit about your role at Ivy Studio and what Ivy Studio is.
Yeah, what's up? Thanks for having me, Joe. It's great to talk to you again. So my name's Zac Dixon. I am one of the co-founders of Ivy Studio, act as its creative director, and I'm also on the game design team. Which means I spend my days designing board games and also working with artists and our whole team to kind of bring all of our products to life.
This is your what would this be? About your 13th launch on Kickstarter. The game is Honor's End. This is one of your quote unquote big box games. What made you decide to make a game so different than some of your other games?
Yeah, so this is our very first, I say big cooperative game. We do have a small box cooperative game, but our very first game actually was called Moonrakers. It was a deck building game that had some cooperative elements, but ultimately is a competitive game. And we had made alongside of that a companion. It was actually a digital companion called Luminor that turned the game into a fully cooperative game. But it ended up just being this kind of side free expansion that kind of shoehorned a game that kind of worked into a cooperative game. And so for a long time, we've kind of been imagining, what if we were able to take that idea and turn it into a full game that was just built to be a cooperative game from the ground up. The other thing that we really loved about that system is we were able to tell a story. We were able to kind of guide players on a narrative journey and give, some context to what would otherwise be just, illustrations and a name on a card. Now you get to kind of walk with them through a story. And so that was kind of the foundation, that, kernel of the idea that eventually became Honor's End.
Talking about that narrative of it, I got to do one of the playtest sessions back in down in Cincinnati a couple weekends ago.
Awesome.
Playing that narrative, I liked how you wrote it almost like a movie script. What made you decide to do it like a bit of a movie script with the interiors, the exteriors, and just those little actions in there to help guide people with what was going on?
Yeah, so I've had some experience writing for nothing made, but just writing scripts and screenplays, and I that came from the place of like, what do we want this to feel like when you're playing the game, right? You don't want to just have one person at the table just reading it out. So what I thought would be fun is, what if this read like a table? You did it like a table read, right? So it's like
Mm.
you might have this character in your deck, I might have this character in mine. When new characters come up, you just kind of assign it to someone at the table, and then they get to read that part. So that way everybody's engaged. One person doesn't feel like they have to read everything, and you kind of feel like you get to play a part in the story.
And then in terms of the danger dice, this whole mechanic that leads to so much pain throughout the game. What was the what made you guys go with danger dice? That's the name of it, but then also this is the thing that makes everything almost revolve around it in terms of
Yeah,
your core gameplay.
Yeah, so there's so many layers to that. So a good co-op game needs some kind of threat, something that you're battling against, that you need to make decisions around, but that there also is some kind of inherent um, surprise around, right? We have these moments of cooperation in the game design, where we come together and we say like, okay, how are we going to strategize around this moment? How are we going to divide up our danger dice? But you don't know actually what the danger dice are going to do. And so you can't know exactly what's going to happen. So it's just like, all right, I think I could take five. I think I could take two. And then, you split it up and you see what happens. And so I think there's these big moments of these dice rolls of like, oh no, I'm screwed. I got to figure out how to do this. Like, can you help me over here with, giving me some more cards or something? So I think it creates these really nice big culminating moments of drama that you then have to rise up against. And I think, especially in a game like this, you want to feel powerful. And so if we're going to make the player feel powerful, you have to make the danger feel powerful and unpredictable. And dice is just a great way to accomplish that.
I really enjoyed a lot of the cooperativeness of it. I love being able to go, "Hey guys, I can give you my equipment for the shared part of the turn, and then oh, I have another cooperative card I can use, and then when it comes back around, I actually have another one, and suddenly maybe my hand's not as great, but everyone else is doing really well, and that might lend better for the damage dealing of it. But when it came to building these mechanics of we want to make sure things can be as cooperative as possible, but not make things overpowered. When did that balancing come into place?
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into it. We had a couple different goals when it came to doing the game design around the cooperative moments in this game. There are two things that we wanted to combat. One being quarterbacking, as we call it, where like one person kind of takes over. They played the game a bunch, or they play a lot of board games, get some newer players. It's easy for that player to just be like, oh no, this is what we should do. Like you should play your hand like this. So we didn't want that. We didn't want one player to be able to take over. And then the other thing is oh man, I lost it. Well, let me talk about the quarterbacking thing for a moment. So to do that, we wanted to have these moments where we all came together, we made decisions, and we divided up danger dice. We decided what equipment we were going to share, what cards we were going to discard to help people. But then we all get to go away, right? We all get to have kind of our moments of um, individual success, because at the end of the day you want to feel like you made a meaningful contribution to the team and what was happening. And so we kind of kept things siloed in these moments of like, all right, now I'm going to play my cards while you play your cards. And what's nice about that is we're all playing our cards all at the same time, and that let us essentially, we're not waiting around for other people. So our actual decision space, our strategy in every moment to moment turn could actually be a little bit more complex, because like I don't feel like I'm slowing everybody down because you're working on your stuff, I'm working on my stuff. You don't even have time to get in my business and tell me what to do over here, even if you're maybe a better player than I am. So yeah, and then I thought of the other thing. The other thing is in a lot of cooperative games, there can be a lot of these like kind of weird order of operation things where it's like, oh, you end up kind of walking things back. You're like, well, what if I didn't play this? Or like, what if I didn't do this? And we didn't want to have that where you felt like you were just constantly walking things back and kind of getting into weird order of operation stuff. So we really wanted to have these siloed moments that were very clear, had very clear beginnings and ends to our cooperation. So that way, I'm not in the middle of my turn and all of a sudden you're like, actually, you know what? You get an extra card. And it's like, oh, well, if I had known I got an extra card, I want to play this and I want to play this. And so then you're like picking stuff back up. And so we really wanted to avoid those things. And that kind of led us to the phases where you have these big group strategy moments, and then also these moments where you get to go off on your own and do something awesome and, come back to your team and just be like, I blocked it all, guys. Or I did all this damage. Like, look what I did. And then you can kind of have that nice high five moment and then move on to your next kind of group strategy moment.
I think I do have to ask that question then. Where do you line up? I mean, this is a game that you've helped. I mean, it's your game. Where do you fall on the line of when you're doing that simultaneous play session where you play the card and you go, okay, I can't take that card back now? Where do you land on that? Because I had a couple moments where I'd play it and be like, what if I just sneak this card in right here? And that it still works, but then I'm getting the wound out of my hand.
At the end of the day, board games are about having fun. And so I think I am very much the kind of person where it's just like I'm not very hardcore. I think I definitely used to be that way, but now it's
Mm.
just like no, no, no. We're all here to have a good time. Like, no, just pick the cart back up. It's okay.
What is in terms of the world tour that's been going on? It's not necessarily you physically going around, but maybe your staffers or obviously the board game. What has
Mhm.
that world tour been like? I've not really ever seen that for a board game.
Yeah, yeah. So Lily, our community manager, has been heading that up, and it's been really, really fun. Basically, either her or some of our staff or volunteers all across the U.S. We shipped a bunch of games. We get a bunch of pre-release copies made of the game. I think we had about 80 copies made for
Mm.
Honor's End, and a good portion of them we sent around to cities all around the states. We just had free tickets to sign up. We taught volunteers, or we were present. One of us was present at all these different cities, and people could just come and play the game. And it's really been amazing. I think it's just been really great to have a lot of people out in the world play the game. Get some feedback, but also just like kind of be champions for the game if they liked it. Come to the Kickstarter, come to our Discord, and be involved. Step into the community. I think we've just got such wonderful fans and a wonderful community, and I think this is just a great way to extend that from online to in person. And it's been really fun to see. One of my friends in Brooklyn was just like, oh, it's who helped run the event was just like, oh, like people are exchanging numbers and just being like, I didn't have a group to play with, and like now they're kind of able to see like, oh no, we like this game, we like Ivy Studio and their games, and we've got something in common, and now hopefully they'll keep it going whether they're playing our games or not.
Now I do have to move on to a couple of the harder questions.
Okay.
One, I feel like you guys have this reputation of having very good quality for your components for your games. How has that been going for creating this board game in a world where it's a little pricier to build things, especially if you're shipping it to America? But then on top of that, if you want to get the base retail edition, it's $59, which I was surprised about. I was scared it was going to be higher. So, how did you guys square that circle?
That's a great question. It is undoubtedly becoming more expensive, especially in the United States, to make board games. I think in the past we have not really thought about it too much, to be honest. We've just been like, this is the game that we want to make. These are the components that we want to use, and um, how we want to manufacture it. Internally, now that has gotten a lot stricter. We've had to be extremely picky about where we add deluxifications. We have to decide what's important to us, what's actually going to make a difference. It also means taking a bit worse margins, honestly, especially at that lower price point, which means it's harder for us to grow as a company. It's definitely stalled our hiring and growth, which is really unfortunate. It's been really tough to navigate. But yeah, it's just we have to we have to be tighter. We have to be much more calculated about what we put into our games. Still, we're still aiming for really high quality. It's still, we've never been making cheap products, and that's still true. But yeah, it's just making. We really have to be smart about what we consider for deluxifications in our games. Whereas before, it was just kind of like, all right, let's just do what we want, what we think looks good and feels good.
For your games across the board, has it changed when you might release a new board game or announce a new board game? I know in one
Hmm.
of your previous, we'll call them vlog releases that you have on Fridays, that you've got some more small games in the can. Has that changed at all? Whether you want to fully release something or just kind of wade the tides a little bit?
Um, the the environment is ever changing. And so that is something that we have to keep an eye on. We did earlier this year delay shipment of one of our games because the tariff situation was just so volatile. So Brink got to our backers later because the tariff situation was so high. We expected it, hoped for it to come down to reasonable levels, and it did. So it is certainly affecting the timeline of shipping our games. It has in the past, and we'll see. It's a continually evolving situation, which we'll have to continue to respond to and adapt
Mm.
to. As far as our production, I mean, at our current team size, I think we have like a very we're moving at a pace that feels comfortable to us. I mean, I think in general, it's we make games and we sell games, so like making new games is part of how we stay going as a business. I think the only way to make more games would probably be to hire more people, which we're not in a position to do very much so because of tariffs. So it definitely affects kind of our output and what we're capable of making.
Mm. Considering this is a narrative game, and there's 9 chapters of it. Do you one uh, how has been the spoiler protection been going? And then two, do you think there will ever be? And I know this is an early question, but do you think there will ever be expansions to add more story?
Yeah. So, uh, for the first part of that question, I mean, it's been in a kind of an open question of like, how much do we give away about this story and how much do we let it kind of unfold? Um, I think when you're telling a good story, I think it can be tempting to rely on big twists to kind of make something compelling. I love a good twist, and there's definitely some twists and turns in this story. But ultimately, I think people will hopefully fall in love with the story and these characters as they get into it, and then that will bring weight to what all the things that we have in store. I think that's one of the things I'm really excited about this game is no, normally it's in a board game, there aren't really characters for you to get attached to and feel something towards and be a part of. And I hope that will give extra weight to playing this game, even post narrative, where it's just like, oh, like me and Lady Aldwin, like we went on an adventure together, and it adds a lot more weight to these gameplay sessions that you have. Um, and yeah, so I mean, we've tried to leave little hints here and there about what's coming in the story, but also we kind of landed on the side of like, no, like let's. It seems like people are interested in what we're showing them right now, and then hopefully as they complete the story and get into it, they'll fall in love with this world even more so, as much as we do. And then as far as new content, I mean, that was kind of one of our hopes setting out. Deck builders and the genre in general is just so ripe for expansion. Like we're putting a lot of that effort into the game as it goes. Like as you play the game, as you unlock new chapters, you unlock more cards, and so there's some of that stuff that maybe we would hold back for an expansion in other games is included in this game. But that said, there are just I mean we were in a meeting today. We're just like that feels like volume two. That feels like volume two to me. Like let's hold that back because there's already so much in here, and so like we're already seeing mechanics that we can do. But also when we look at expansions, a lot of it is very much in response to the community. Like, what are they liking? What are we hearing from them that they wish they could do? That's a lot of things that we do in game development, anyways. Is we ask, like, what do you wish you could do that you can't? And so, in some ways, I think developing expansions is very much in response to the community and how they interact with our games.
All right. I think we're good on our tough questions now. Let me ask you a couple of fun questions. One, do you think you're good at the game?
Oh, I
Maybe that's the
did.
toughest question, actually.
I did think I was good at the game until we got into public playtesting, and then there were like stuff where like, oh, this is hard. Like this is real hard. And then people then like consistently like, are you gonna make this game hard? Like, are you gonna make it harder? Because this is like way too easy. And I'm like, what are we doing? Are we bad at this? So maybe
I thought the
I
game
might
had
be
good
bad at it.
challenge.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's like there is a bit of bias there, right? I mean, if you're
Mhm.
on a Discord and you're giving up like your Friday night to play test a game with strangers on Discord, like you're probably pretty good at board games. So I think there is like that's something we have to keep in mind, right? Is like people who are playtesting this game are like very into board games, and so we might we can't make it too hard for them. That's for sure.
I'm also going to ask the question of, are we getting it's just gambling?
Oh, wow, that's a
I pay
you're
attention sometimes.
you're paying attention. It is something we are actively developing. So if you're not aware, it's just gambling. Well, it started as just us goofing around at a convention where we just started rolling dice, and we were just like, oh, like what odds would you give me on this dice bouncing four or more times and rolling an even number? And we were just coming up with wild things to kind of bet fake money on. And we just had such a blast coming up with these kind of wacky, prop bets and stuff. And we're like, oh, could we structure this kind of creativity into a board game? We finally have a prototype that I like. It's very it's very fun, but it's still like V3, and we'll need to get to V10 before we, really put it out there and see what the public thinks. But I hope so. I'm hopeful.
Is it sometimes more fun to make the very serious, in-depth board game like Honor's End, or to make a game like it's just gambling, or at least prototyping something like that.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different. I think the smaller our small box games like are a bit lighter, and those games I think can come a bit more fully formed, at least in my experience, to where it's like I think bigger games require a bit more iteration, and so I think you can kind of find a big game in there somewhere, whereas like a little game a lot of times is just like, nope, that's nothing. That's,
Mm.
that this prototype just isn't anything because like it's all wrapped up in one small kernel of an idea. And if that kernel isn't working, then you don't have anything. Whereas like something like Honor's End is a lot of kernels, right? It's like, okay, this over here and this over here and this over here. And usually like at least two of those things are working. And then you can strip away the other ones and add, plug new things in. And so it's just a very different process. But it can be a bit discouraging when working on the smaller things because a lot of times it's just like, well, everything I worked on today was not really anything. So that stinks. But when you get one, it's like almost done, and that's amazing.
All right. Final big question in terms of Honor's End. What do you think is the appropriate player count for the game, and where? What was the toughest part adjusting for a solo mode on the game?
Yeah, great question. It's very tough. This is probably our hardest or most difficult balancing game because a lot of our other games, um, I don't say that they balance themselves, but I think competition can help balance your games. Like, for example, like a game like Moonrakers, um, you don't have to put brakes on the leader because the players will do that themselves, right? They won't negotiate with you. They won't help you once you get past a certain point. So then everyone behind starts working towards or working forward, against that leader. In a cooperative game, there's the game has to do that on its own as you play at all player counts. Um, so and it's been one of those games where a small tweak goes a really long way for it being like unplayably easy to unplayably broken and demoralizing. And so it's been a real. I mean, we've played tested this game probably more than any game we've ever made, and yeah, it's a tricky process. So all that to say, we wouldn't put it on the box if we didn't think it was a great experience at the player count. This game, for example, could function at 5 players, but I think it'd be too long. I think it would be too much, and so we didn't do it because I think it would be a suboptimal experience. A lot of solo players are very interested in this game, so we are fighting hard to make that a fantastic experience. So I know it's a bit of a cop out to say like 1 to 4 players are going to be great, but that's like we put it on the box like that. It's going to be great. If I was personally my own opinion, if I was putting this on the table, I think 4, just because I like playing with bigger groups. I like the synergies that are possible with everybody, and I'm not a big solo gamer myself, so I like getting a lot of people at the table.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Is there anything else you would like to mention in regards to Honor's End for someone who's hearing about this? There's still time left on that Kickstarter to back it. That makes anything else that you want to say to maybe get someone to back it?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, um, if you like games like video games like Slay the Spire or card games that have deck building in them, I think Honors End is definitely for you. I think it's got some of its own twists on that I think make it kind of worth sitting alongside other deck builders like you might have. I think if you like games that are puzzly, where it's like you can get a hand, and I think in a lot of deck builders, it's just like play those cards out, show me what you got and move on. I think this game has a lot of strategy hand to hand that I think can feel really, really satisfying. And then the other thing that we talked about a little bit as well is just I think um, I'm really excited about the way we were able to explore storytelling in the board game medium. I'm really excited about the story that we're telling, and I think I hope it's something that is worth experiencing for everyone who loves board games, um, and hopefully I think it would be something new in the kind of medieval genre storytelling wise as well.
Zac Dixon, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate the time that you took to talk. Thank you.
Oh yeah, thanks so much for having me. I love this. This is great.
And again, thank you once more to Zac for joining us for this interview. We'll be back again in about a week or two with a new episode of Game Together with all three of us. Until then, have a great day and game on.